Hello, and welcome back to another Friday with Nomads. So this week's video, super quick, super easy, straight to the point. We're going through 7 tips for you when you are traveling with your drone that you have to know as you travel. And we'll get right into it. So, number 1 is bubble wrap it up. If you are carrying a drone and you do not have a case, it is essential to bubble wrap that stuff everywhere you go. Super important. Nobody wants to have your drone go on a flight, come out, and you got some cracked propellers, or worse, maybe your camera is scratched or your gimbal is messed up. Super important. Always bubble wrap it or find some way to protect it if you do not have a case. Case is a little hard to find, a little hard to get, and a little expensive, so I always recommend bubble wrapping it or find some way to protect it within your bag. That's especially for a Mavic. If you have a Phantom series drone, then odds are you have a case that's perfectly designed for it, so you don't have to worry too much about that. But for smaller drones like the Mavic and the Spark, really important, bubble wrap that stuff. Tip number 2, pretty obvious one, but a lot of people neglect it, and probably heard this before, but it is super duper important that you are familiar with the local drone laws before you head out and before you travel. For example, if you're going to Nicaragua, drones are totally not allowed there, so they will confiscate them at the airport. That's an extra hassle, and it's not a guarantee that you will get it back. So important to know before you go into a country: 1, are drones even allowed there? 2, where can I fly? And 3, what restrictions upon my flights will there be? In Canada, where I am right now, there's a few laws that you gotta know. Number 1 is you cannot fly within 75 meters or about 250 feet of people or buildings or animals / wildlife. That's a very general term. Make sure you're well versed in the local laws and that you're not going to have any problems while you're there because you're prepared and you know what's up. Tip number 3, and this is something I've done every single flight I've been on where I've brought my drone, is always flying with one of these. Always fly with carry-on. Do not try and check it in. Always carry on. The reason being is you want to be totally 100% certain that your drone is going to come out safe and alive and not broken and cracked, or even worse, lost in luggage. So you're totally guaranteed to know exactly how your drone is being handled, because nobody wants to deal with any of that hassle of losing a drone or having any broken parts on it. Losing luggage is never fun. That's why whenever I travel, just in general, I bring all of my stuff on carry-on regardless. Tip number 4, and this is the only filming tip on this whole list, and that's learn how to use Active Track. Now, Active Track is super duper important, especially if you're like me this summer where you're going to be solo traveling and you don't have somebody to pass the remote to. So what it does is it can follow you around, pan the camera and the gimbal exactly to your position, and track you super smoothly and accurately. So if you want to get the best footage out of it, use Active Track when you're traveling. It's the safest way to make sure that you are, 1, not going to crash your drone, but always make sure that you put on obstacle avoidance on Active Track or intelligent flight modes, because it may not carry on over. So 1, make sure obstacle avoidance is on, and 2, it is the safest way and the smoothest way to get really good footage while you have the remote in your hand and you're walking around and you may not necessarily want to get landscape shots. So use Active Track, smart thing to do, gets really good results. Tip number 5, and that's always pack an extra set of propellers. This is super important. You never know when you're going to get a crash, and the most likely part of your drone to get damaged are the propellers. When I crashed mine in New York, the only damage that there was to the drone were to the propellers, and we didn't have any spares at the time, but now I always keep an extra couple sets with me. Super cheap if you're looking at the Mavics, only about like $12. Not sure what the price for the Phantom series are, but I do know that the Sparks are even cheaper, as the propellers are only about this big. But yeah, super important. Always bring propellers. Be prepared. Be safe. Tip 6, always bring extra batteries. I do not have an extra battery on my Mavic, unfortunately, right now, but for my upcoming trip this summer through Southeast Asia, I will make sure that I have at least 1 extra battery. They are pricey. That's the issue with them. It's about 120 Canadian dollars to get a Mavic battery, and that's a little frustrating, I know, but you only have about 20 to 25 minutes of flight time. And if you're going through all these incredible locations and you're trying to get these these great landscapes. One, super important to be efficient, and two, having that extra battery will just get you so much more potential for the shots that you can get throughout that day. Always recommend extra battery or two if you can. And tip number 7, the final tip for today is plan when you are going to charge your batteries, because when you're traveling and you've got a lot of gear and equipment with you, it may be hard to travel your camera gear, your drone gear, your phone, your laptop all at once. And you do not want to go out on a shoot one day and forget that you charged your second battery. You didn't charge it, now you can't get any more footage. So always make sure that you're thinking ahead, where and when can I charge this battery. It only gives you 20 to 25 minutes of flight time and takes about 80 to 90 minutes to charge. So if you're at a coffee shop, charge it there if you can. Or any little place that you can get that extra little bit of battery life in it is super important, and you'll get the most out of it, the best shots, the most shots, and I think you'll be more happy with the results that you get as you travel. So that wraps up another Friday tip video. I'll be putting out videos every single Friday. Sometimes there'll be vlogs, sometimes there'll be edits, sometimes there'll be tips for your drone or from when you travel or things that you gotta know. But on this channel, we, the people that watch this, myself included, we are nomads. We like to travel, we like to live, we like to explore, we like to adventure, and I thank you for watching it this far. See you next time, and goodbye.